Hi everyone, this is Isaac again, giving an update on the M&P 2.0 compact with the outer impact plate with the Trigicon RM02 on top. And just to start off, I'm loving this. Really liking it. I've used stock sights before. I've used big dot sights before, and this is by far superior to either one of them. There may be a training curve. May not be perfect for newer shooters. Like I handed this to my wife, and she had trouble finding the dot. But for someone who's got their draw down and they can pick that gun up, push it out, and have a good consistent draw, that dot shows up pretty well. That's my take on it anyway. So, I wanted to try this way. My thought beginning was that I'm gonna try this mount, and then if I like it, I can just send this off and have it milled. But the problem with that is that it takes money to have it milled. The cheapest I've found is $100, but most places, that's just having it milled. By the time you have it milled and then have the spot you milled, coated or painted or whatever, and then they want to charge extra for the new dovetail they have to make for the new rear sight, and then you actually have to buy suppressor sights, which is like another $100. By the time you get through all that, you're $200 or $300. But at the cheapest, without even getting a rear sight, you're at $100, and then you're out, 2 to 8 weeks on this thing, plus shipping times and shipping cost. That's just a big investment. It really is, and I don't feel like going through that. And that was my, that's what I was kind of planning on doing to begin with. But now that I've seen this and seen how it works, I actually probably going to stick with this, at least for a while. If I do go with a milled option, it'll be probably more aesthetic. Just because it sits up just a quarter inch higher than it would be. It doesn't sit that high. You can see the plate is not that thick, but it does just sit up a little higher than normal when you mill it. But one of the reasons I think I've decided to stay with this, I'll show you, is that let's see if I can get this lined up. See my sight picture? I press this out, and I have a completely clear glass. Now you can kind of see this, the front sight right there. But see, when you get backup iron sights put on here, your iron sight is going to be in the middle of your field of view like that, and then you're going to have a rear sight. It's kind of like if you were to get an AR-15 and you have, what do we do when we put a red dot on an AR-15? We get the flip-up sights or the flip-down sights that fold away so we can have a clear field of view with our red dot, right? How it would kind of defeat the purpose if we had a rear sight and a front sight on our AR-15 and we just kept them up while we had the red dot. It would kind of defeat the purpose, right? That's kind of how I feel about this. I'm going to have permanent iron sights that I can't fold away or put away, it's going to be completely obscuring my field of view. Sure, you can get some lower suppressor sights that are, the lower 1/3 witness, or you can do the true co-witness. If I was going to do anything, I'd do the lower 1/3, not a true co-witness, just because you lose a little bit of your situational awareness when you have stuff cover. The beautiful thing about a red dot is that it floats there. You can see under it and all of that. So that's kind of how I view that right now. let's be realistic. You're probably not going to use iron sights in a fight anyway. I mean, I went to tactical response and took the fight, which is their force-on-force training course, 2-day training course, where they run you through scenarios, and you have a blue Glock 17 that shoots federal force-on-force marking rounds, and you have actors. The Glock 17 had big dot sights on it, and at the time I was carrying a Glock 19 with big dot sights on it, so it was identical, almost identical to my carry setup. I used my regular holster I used for carrying with this setup. So with that, not one time in the whole course did I ever know there was sights on that gun. I mean, you could have taken the sights off of that gun and I would have not noticed during the fights. I was 100% focused on the guy with the knife or the gun, and also not getting shot, moving. I was worried about my tactics and the threat. That's what I was worried about. And I mean, and that was with big dot sights on it that are kind of designed for fighting. I mean, that's not with just regular old black notch and post sights. That was a big old white golf ball on the end of that gun. So I mean, I kind of just trusted my all those draw strokes I have under my belt to just press out that gun, it be in the right spot, and and I shot some guys, but that was not a fun class, but it taught me a lot. But I say that because people think, well, I gotta have backup iron sights on my pistol. Because what if my red dot goes down? What if my red dot goes down and I don't have sights? I can't shoot the bad guy. Well, you're probably not going to use your iron sights anyway. But if I have a bad guy and he's actually far enough away to where I can press my gun out and shoot, and I press my gun out like I've trained to do, and I see this guy, and he has a red dot, a big old red glowing dot on the middle of his chest, I can use that dot to make hits with. But if I pull this thing out, and let's see, I pull this thing out, and it's like that, or like this, or like that, and I don't have a good, sight, well, guess what? I'm just going to shoot him through that glass. I'm just going to use that big old glass as kind of a ghost ring of sort, kind of a just kind of a sight. I mean, you can even use the little top of it, the little U. I mean, you can even put the guy. I mean, say this dot went down and you push out, you can just put your target in the glass or on top, and you can make good hits. I mean, maybe not 25 yards, but I mean, we got to be realistic with this. I mean, most of us are going to carry our whole life, and we're never going to have to use our gun to defend ourselves. I mean, maybe once or twice in our life, we may have to pull this thing out because someone is getting threatening or something, and they see the gun and they say, okay, I'm going on to the next guy that's not armed. And that may be the most you have to do. But on the very, very, very rare occasion that you do have to pull out your gun, and you do have to point it at some guy, and you do have to shoot, how many of those are far enough away, and you have enough, time to use your sights? And then how many of those are going to be up close, dirty, trying to get the gun out and put, hold it at the high, center, hold it next to your body and just pull the trigger until the threat stops. What I'm saying is, we're not Navy SEALs. Let's be realistic with this. You don't need backup iron sights for your pistol when you have a I mean, I'm not running some crappy $50 red dot. This is an RMR. This is a very high quality sight. And people worry about, Well, what if the glass breaks? Well, backup sights are not going to do you any good then. You're just going to have to point shoot. You know, the deal is that a lot of times your gunfighting may have to devolve into point shooting, but if you've got thousands and thousands of rounds and thousands of draws where you pull that gun out and you push it out, and you've already got a good natural aim and good form of where you kind of have a good idea. I mean, you can be good. If you took all the sights off of my gun and just had me pull the gun, I could make hits on a human-sized target, you know, at 10 yards, no problem, without any stress, you know? So, let's not be unrealistic, guys. You don't have to have backup sights. We're not Navy SEALs. So, that's what I wanted to say about that. I'm really liking the outer impact and the RMR. This RMR, of course, is the one that has no buttons. And that's one of the things I want to talk about, is because this has no buttons. You put the battery in there, and mount it on there, it is on. And, of course, the battery is going to last a good, year or two, depending on how dark it is, wherever this thing is stored. But one of the things is that I can't really, I only have one hand, but the model that has the buttons has buttons on the two sides of the glass. Well, what do you touch when you rack the slide? You squeeze the slide up over the top of it, and you're going to be pushing those buttons. So you could turn the thing off, you could turn the thing into auto mode, you could turn the thing on off auto mode, you could turn the light down, you could turn the light up. Well, how about you just get this one, the RM02, and then when it's dark outside, it dims, and when it's light out, and when it's really bright outside, it brightens up. Sure, if you're in a dark room and you're having to shoot into a really bright area, your red dot may get washed out. But guess what? You're just gonna have to deal with that. That's one of the downfalls, and I know there's nothing else I can say to that. You have a really bright 5 billion lumen flashlight that you want to point at somebody. It's gonna wash out the light. Get over it. That's just that's the name of the game. But another thing I'd like to say is that with this outer impact mount, which I can tell it's a high quality mount, the problem is that it's not specifically made for the RMR. It is made for multiple red dot optics. And the problem with that is that it has multiple holes in the bottom of the plate. So this RMR, if you know anything about RMRs, they are made to sit on a flat surface, and they don't have a bottom. Like when you pick this thing up, the battery is exposed. So what you have to do is you have to either when you have this milled and you sit it on there, it has an O-ring around the bottom, so it's kind of like the gun is the bottom plate to it. You can see what I'm saying? So what you have to buy is like a $15 or $20 mounting plate that goes on the bottom of the RMR. I don't know why they don't send it with it. I mean, it's literally a small sheet of stamped metal in a certain shape, and what it does is if you have an uneven or a mounting surface that has holes in it, you can put that on the bottom, and it keeps it from water getting in. So the problem right now, the problem right now is that if I drop this in a mud puddle, water can get in it. I mean, that is a huge downside. So before we get really serious about ordering this and the plate and everything, you really need to order the mounting plate with it. If I had to do it over again, I would order the plate, and that's really what I need to go ahead and do, is order that plate. And Trigicon sells it. I don't know, like I said, I don't know why it doesn't come with it. I mean, it wouldn't cost anything to make, you know, just put it extra in there in case people need it. But 15-20 bucks is what you got to pay, and that'll make sure it's waterproof, and it'll waterproof it up to 66 feet or something like that. So that's that, guys. Let's see, I went over the mounting plate, the accuracy. I'm really liking the accuracy. I'm able to shoot this thing better than I could the big dots that I had. I mean, once you get this thing sighted in, it's actually odd. I noticed how inaccurate the ammo I was shooting was. Before, I would have thought that I was just not shooting that well, but because of this red dot, you know, I actually put this in a vise and aimed it and then pulled the trigger several times, and at 25 yards I was getting like 6 to 8 inch deviation at 25 yards with this thing, and I was shooting some Tula ammo. Of course, we know Tula is just cheap plinking ammo, and it's fine, but you know, I had to go get some federal brass ammo, and I put in this thing, and then I was getting consistent like, you know, 1 inch groups at 25 yards with this thing in a vise. So I was almost worried that it was the mounting plate or the RMR not being solid, you know, being jerked around when it cycles and stuff like that. But no, the actual ammunition is that bad. That just goes to show that this thing improves the accuracy so much that you're going to notice things like that. And I was actually surprised at how well I could shoot. I'm not a great shot by any means, but at 25 yards I was able to freehand put two rounds nearly touching, less than an inch apart. Now I was a little low on that one, so I had to go back and adjust my point of impact on here. But you know, this is a great setup. I love it. I don't want to use it as a crutch, but man, it makes shooting so much easier. And I don't ever want to get to where I can't shoot you know, a gun with iron sights. But man, this is just a force multiplier. This makes you, it really does make you a better shot. And you know, there's nothing that, I mean, sure, if you put 5,000 rounds through this pistol and had a lot more training, you could probably do the same thing that this dot sight does. But I've done 200 dry practice draws with this today, and the more I do it, the easier it is to find the dot. Like I said, when I first got this, you know, you would press out, and then you would kind of have to do this little swirly thing to try to find the dot sometimes. But now I press out, and then bam, I find the dot right off. So anyway, that's that, guys. That's the update on the M&P 2.0 Compact with the RMR with the outer impact plate. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, please let me know in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer them. Till next time, guys.